I never thought revenge would feel like slipping into someone else's skin, but there I was, staring down at hands that weren't mine, manicured, gold-ringed, the kind that signed multi-million-dollar deals without a second thought. Those hands had stolen everything from me, my code, my future, my goddamn name. And now, with a glitch in the prototype neural interface we'd been beta testing in secret, I'd swapped places with Victor Hale, the golden boy CEO of Nexus Innovations. One freak surge in the lab, a momentary blackout, and poof, Peyton Ellis, the overlooked intern from the wrong side of the tracks in Oakland, was suddenly the king of the Silicon Valley castle. The first order of business? I wired $1 million to an offshore account in my old name, framing the real Victor for embezzlement. Call it poetic justice, or call it the start of the end, either way. No one saw it coming. It started 6 months earlier, back when I was just Peyton, the kid with a CS degree from a state school nobody cared about, scraping by on ramen and Red Bull in a cramped studio apartment off Market Street. Nexus was my shot at the big leagues, a startup hyped as the next big thing in AI ethics, promising to humanize the machine with neural mapping tech that could sync human brains to algorithms. Victor Hale, the founder, was the face of it all, mid-40s, chiseled jaw from too many CrossFit sessions, a TED Talk under his belt, and a Rolodex full of venture capitalists who hung on his every word. He spotted me at a hackathon, poached me as an intern with promises of equity and mentorship. "Kid, you got fire," he said, clapping me on the back like we were brothers.
Fire.
Yeah,
Right.
that fire lit the fuse on the bomb he planted in my life. My project was the crown jewel, EchoMind, a body swap simulator for empathy training. The idea was revolutionary. Execs could inhabit the digital avatars of their employees, walking a mile in virtual shoes to bridge the empathy gap in corporate America. I poured my soul into it, coding late nights while Victor paraded me around as his prodigy. But 3 weeks before the big demo, he called me into his glass-walled office overlooking the bay. "Peyton, this is gold," he said, scrolling through my prototype on his tablet. "But it's not ready. Let me polish it, add my touch." I hesitated, but ambition's a hell of a drug. I handed it over. Big mistake. The demo day was a circus, tech bros in hoodies, reporters from Wired, even a senator sniffing around for photo ops. Victor took the stage, all charisma and cufflinks, unveiling HaleSync, his rebranded version of my baby. The crowd ate it up. Applause thundered. I stood in the back, clapping like a trained seal, my stomach twisting into knots. He didn't mention me once. Not in the speech. Not in the press release. Not when the funding round ballooned to $200 million overnight. I confronted him after, voice shaking in the green room. "Victor, that was my code. My algorithm." He laughed it off, poured me a scotch. "Peyton, welcome to the game. You want credit? Earn it like I did. Now get back to debugging the coffee machine." That night, I drowned in cheap whiskey at a dive bar in Mission, scrolling job listings on my phone. But the real gut punch came 2 days later. HR email. Subject line, termination notice. Accusations flew, data theft, IP violation. Even whispers of corporate espionage tied to a Chinese firm. Victor had planted the seeds, framing me for leaking EchoMind's core files during its development. I was the fall guy, the expendable intern who'd gotten too big for his britches. Cops showed up at my door at dawn, badges flashing under the sodium lights. Handcuffs bit into my wrists as they read me my rights. "You have the right to remain silent," one droned, while Victor watched from his Tesla, parked across the street like a shadow. Jail was a blur of fluorescent hell, concrete bunks, the stench of bleach and regret, inmates trading stories of betrayals that sounded too much like mine. My public defender, a harried woman named Rita with coffee stains on her blouse, fought like a lion but couldn't touch Victor's lawyers, sharks from a firm that repped big oil. Evidence piled up, forged timestamps on my laptop, anonymous tips to the feds. I took the plea deal. 2 years probation. A felony on my record. Blacklisted from tech forever. The secret Victor buried? It wasn't just the theft. During the investigation, I dug into the dark web forums, piecing together whispers. EchoMind wasn't for empathy. It was a black ops tool, funded under the table by DARPA, designed to swap consciousnesses for interrogation, slip into a terrorist's mind without waterboarding. Victor had greenlit human trials on undocumented migrants. Guinea pigs vanished into the system. I'd coded the monster, unknowingly, and he let me rot to cover his ass. Out on parole after 18 months of house arrest in my mom's sagging duplex in East Oakland, I clawed back scraps, gig economy coding for shady startups, dodging bill collectors.
Mom,
A nurse who'd worked double shifts to pay for my tuition, hugged me tight on release day. "Peyton, baby, it's over. Start fresh."
fresh.
As if a felony rap sheet washes off like bay fog. But Victor? He was untouchable. Forbes 30 under 50. Yacht parties in the Mediterranean. A fiancé from old money who posted their power couple vibes on Instagram. I stalked his feeds obsessively. Hate-fueled rabbit holes that kept me up till dawn. That's when I stumbled on the Nexus beta program, volunteers for neural enhancement trials. Pay was peanuts, but access to the lab? Priceless. I faked credentials, slipped in as a low-level tester. One night, during a solo session with the EchoMind rig, a helmet of wires and electrodes humming like a hive, I triggered it manually. Overloaded the sync. Lightning in my skull. Then darkness. Waking up in Victor's penthouse bed, sheets like silk against skin that felt foreign, was surreal. His body taller, broader, the faint ache of a recent gym pull in my shoulder. I stumbled to the bathroom mirror, flicked on the light. There he was, salt and pepper hair, that smug cleft chin, blue eyes I'd hated from afar. But inside?
Me.
Peyton Ellis, seething. The real Victor, trapped in my scrawny frame, was probably freaking out in my old apartment, pounding on doors that wouldn't open. The swap wasn't permanent. The doc said, reverses in 72 hours unless you override the failsafe. Plenty of time to settle scores. First move, infiltrate the office. I strode into Nexus HQ like I owned it because I did.
Technically.
Employees parted like the Red Sea. Morning, Victor. Great pitch last week. Sir. I nodded, suppressing the urge to laugh maniacally. Settled into the corner office. Floor-to-ceiling views of the Golden Gate shrouded in mist. Coffee in hand, black. 2 sugars. Just like he'd ordered from the barista app, I pulled up the servers. EchoMind's black files were buried deep, encrypted under layers of bullshit. But I was the ghost in the machine. I cracked them in under an hour. There it was, the migrant trials, signed off by Victor in blood-red digital ink. Names, dates, disappearances. Enough to torch his empire. But revenge isn't a sprint, it's a slow bleed. I started small, controversial seeds to watch him squirm. Leaked a memo to the board, restructuring for equity, slashing bonuses for the C-suite, funneling cash to diversity hires from underserved communities. The old guard howled. White dudes in their 50s, red-faced in the next all hands. Victor, this is woke insanity, one barked. I leaned back. Victor's baritone smooth as bourbon. Times are changing. Gentlemen. Adapt or get left behind. Twitter exploded. Nexus woke wash trending. Op-eds calling me a sellout.
Good.
Let the fractures widen. Next. The personal gut punch. I called his fiancée. Elena, blonde. Yoga-toned. The kind of woman who brunch brags about philanthropy. Posed as Victor. Voice laced with doubt. Babe, I need to come clean. That intern I framed? Peyton Ellis? He didn't deserve it.
I
slept with his mom once. Years ago. Guilt ate me alive. Silence on the line. Then tears. You bastard.
Click.
By noon, she was live on Insta stories, sobbing about betrayal, tagging every influencer in her Rolodex. Victor's stock, my stock, tumbled 8% on the scandal. Pundits debated, was it Me Too justice or a gold digger's ploy? I sipped scotch from his decanter, the burn familiar yet alien in this throat. As the 48-hour mark ticked down, paranoia set in. The real Victor, in my body, had gone dark. No frantic calls. No cops. What was he planning? I doubled down, scheduled a press conference for dawn, prepping a confession script. Ladies and gentlemen, Nexus was built on lies. But first, one more twist. I invited the board to a strategy dinner at a waterfront steakhouse in the Embarcadero, prime rib, aged scotch. The works. They filed in. Ties loosened, murmuring about the leaks. I stood at the head. Victor's smile plastered on. Gentlemen,
before we eat.
A toast to truth. That's when the doors burst open. Not cops, worse. My dad. Or rather, the man I'd called dad my whole life, but who hadn't spoken to me since the arrest. Harlan Ellis, retired homicide detective from the Oakland PD. Grizzled beard streaked gray. Eyes like chipped flint. He wasn't alone. 2 feds in cheap suits flanked him, badges glinting under the chandeliers. The board froze. Forks midair. Harlan locked eyes with me, in Victor's shell, and his voice boomed. That brutal cop timbre that had cracked confessions in interrogation rooms. Victor Hale, he growled, stepping forward like a storm front. You think you can bury bodies and code forever? Tell me, son, when you framed my boy Peyton for your DARPA dirt, did you ever stop to ask who really pulled the trigger on that whistleblower in Reno 2 years back? The one whose suicide note you doctored to look like Ellis's hand. The room went tomb silent. My heart, Victor's heart, hammered. Whistleblower? Reno? Flashes hit. Buried in the files. A Nexus contractor who'd sniffed the black ops. Found dead in a motel with a forged note implicating.
Me? No, Peyton.
Victor had pinned it on the intern to deflect. But Harlan knew.
How? That's cop instincts.
Probably. Gnawing at the edges, all those years. I opened my mouth, Victor's voice catching. Harlan, this is... He cut me off. One brutal question that exposed everything. If Peyton's code was so stolen, why does the original commit log, pulled from your own servers this morning, show your fingerprints all over the kill switch that fried that poor bastard's neural implant in Reno? You didn't just steal credit.
Hale.
You stole a life and pinned the murder on a kid to cover your tracks. Gasps rippled. The feds moved in.
Cuffs out.
The board scattered like roaches. I stood there, trapped in this stolen skin. The swap's timer beeping faintly in my earpiece, reversal imminent. But as they dragged me away, Harlan leaned in close, his breath whiskey rough. Peyton, if that's you in there,
Son.
fight it. This ain't the way. The cruiser ride to the federal holding facility was a nightmare funhouse, sirens wailing through the rain-slicked streets of San Francisco. My wrists cuffed behind me in Victor's broader frame, the metallic tang of panic in my mouth. Harlan rode shotgun, glancing back with those eyes that had always seen too much, seen the bruises from my stepdad's rages when I was a kid, seen the straight-A report cards I hid to avoid this smart kid target at school. He wasn't my biological father. Mom confessed that on a teary night during my trial. Harlan had stepped up anyway, taught me to throw a punch, bought my first graphing calculator. But the frame job? That severed us. You chose your path, boy, he'd said, walking out of the courtroom.
Now.
Here he was, unraveling Victor's web and mine, by extension. The interrogation room smelled like stale coffee and desperation, a concrete box in the bowels of the federal building. Fluorescent buzz. One-way mirror. The works. The feds, a stone-faced woman named Agent Reyes and her partner. A twitchy guy called Novak sat across the table, files splayed like a bad poker hand. Harlan hovered in the corner, arms crossed, the guest consultant with a vendetta. Talk. Hail, Reyes snapped, sliding over a tablet with the commit logs glowing, incriminating green. Your kill switch didn't just end a life. It bypassed every ethic protocol Peyton Ellis coded into the system. He tried to flag it. You buried him instead. I stared at the screen, Victor's manicured fingers itching to smash it. The logs were damning, timestamps linking V. Hail to overrides that weaponized Echo Mind, turning empathy sim into a death trap. The Reno whistleblower, a ex-Navy coder named Torres, had tested the rig solo, uncovered the DARPA ties. Victor, the real one, had panicked, remotely fried his implant mid-sync. Brain fry.
Relais suicide.
And to deflect, plant the note. Frame the intern with leaked files that mirrored Torres's complaints.
Me.
I'd been the patsy from day one. My access logs doctored while I slaved over the polish. But saying that now, in this body, they'd lock me in the psych ward. The swap timer ticked in my head, 36 hours left. The failsafe, a subcutaneous chip under Victor's collarbone, pulsing like a migraine. I could override it, stay swapped longer, but that meant risking neural degradation, psychosis, seizures. The doc's euphemism for your brain turns to soup. Desperation clawed. Agents, I started, channeling Victor's boardroom bravado. This is a setup. Ellis, Peyton, he's unstable. Parole violations. Grudges. He's hacking us from the inside. Novak snorted.
Goo.
But your own security cams show, Ellis, you're in turn, nowhere near a terminal last night. Meanwhile, your gait analysis from the office matches Hale's stride to a T. Almost like someone else is walking in your shoes.
Shit.
Biometrics. I'd forgotten the lobby scanners. Harlan stepped forward, voice low thunder. Cut the crap, Victor. Or whoever you are. Peyton was a good kid, too good. He covered for you once.
You know.
That glitch in the first trial? The one that almost killed a subject? He logged it as user error to save your ass. Took the heat when the board audited. A memory flickered, not mine. Victor's, bleeding through the sink like static. The lab. 6 months back, a test subject, some off-the-books hire, convulsing in the rig as the neural load spiked. Victor had, watched from the booth. Frozen. Peyton burst in, yanked the helmet, blamed calibration fault, saved the company a scandal. And Victor repaid him by stealing the tech, framing him for murder. Betrayal's blade twisted deeper. This man, this monster I'd become, had used me as a human shield from the start. Reyes leaned in. One chance.
Hale.
Cooperate. And maybe the DA cuts a deal. No death penalty on the manslaughter count. Manslaughter? Torres's death was premeditated as hell. But Victor's empire had tendrils, lobbyists, senators, black-budget spooks who'd bury this deeper than Jimmy Hoffa. I needed leverage. Fine, I said, voice cracking. The files, full EchoMind archives. On a burner drive in my Hale's safe. Combination April 7th, 12. Mother's birthday. Lies. All of it. The real drive was in my apartment, hidden in the false bottom of Mom's old Bible. Let them chase ghosts. They left me stewing. Harlan lingering. Door clicked shut, and he dragged a chair close, elbows on knees. Peyton, he whispered, so soft it barely registered over the AC hum. I know it's you, son. That limp from the jailyard fight? Yours, not his. And the way you hold your coffee, left pinky crooked, like I taught you for grip in a brawl. My throat tightened, Victor's throat. Dad. Save it. This swap? Nexus's dirty secret. I pulled strings after the leaks hit. Old contacts in cybercrimes. EchoMind's not just Sims. It's full transference if you juice it right. But it don't last.
Boy.
And when it snaps back. He trailed off. Eyes wet. Victor's goons are circling. Found his fiancée packing bags. She's lawyered up. Talking spill-all interview with 60 Minutes. The board's dumping stock like it's toxic. You lit the match. But this fire's gonna consume everything, including you. I gripped the table edge. Knuckles white. He deserved it. Stole my life. Dad. Framed me for murder. Those migrants, ghosts in the machine because of him. Harlan sighed. The weight of 30 years on the force etching lines deeper. Deserve? That's a dangerous word. Peyton. Victor's a snake. Yeah. But you? Coding the kill switch override? Even if he twisted your work. You built the gun. And now you're playing God in his skin. Leaking memos that gut pensions for the janitors. Slandering Elena to watch her break. That's not justice. That's poison. The words landed like punches. Controversial? Hell yes. Was I any better? Wearing this mask? Dismantling lives with a few keystrokes? The feds burst back in before I could answer. Burner drive a bust. But they'd cracked the safe remotely. Alarms blared. Intruders in the system. Not me, the real Victor. In my body. Hacking from wherever he'd hold up. Chaos erupted. Lockdowns. SWAT chatter over radios. Harlan hauled me to my feet. Time to run.
Son.
Swaps accelerating. Felt it in your vitals.
Get to the lab.
Reverse it clean. I'll buy time. We bolted through service corridors, fluorescent hell blurring into shadows. Gunfire echoed, security. Loyal to Victor's ghost. A bullet grazed Victor's arm. My arm now, hot sting blooming red.
No bloodbath.
Just the sharp copper whiff. The stagger. Harlan shoved me into an elevator, slamming the closed door. Labs sublevel 3. Code's your birthday, April 15th, 93. Love you.
Kid.
Make it right. Doors sealed as shouts faded. The lab was a tomb, humming servers. The echo mind rigged dormant under emergency lights. I strapped in, helmet descending like a crown of thorns. Override sequence booted, neural storm building. Visions flashing, Victor's childhood in a Hamptons mansion. The first kill in Reno. My own memories bleeding back. Mom's laugh. Oakland stoops. The hackathon win that started it all. Pain lanced, white hot. But as the swap crested, a final download hit. Victor's core files. Unencrypted. The twist, the gut-wrenching reversal I'd never seen coming. Torres wasn't just a whistleblower. He was my half-brother. Seed from Mom's pre-Harlan fling. A secret she'd buried to protect us both. Victor knew had the DNA proof. Used it to coerce the frame. Leak this, and your family's ruined. But Peyton? I'd shielded Mom without knowing. Coding the ethics failsafe that could have saved Torres if Victor hadn't overridden it. The real betrayal? Mine. Unwittingly. I'd built the cage that trapped us all. Sync completed. Bodies realigned in a gasp of vertigo. I slumped in the ruins of my old frame, frail and scarred. While across town, Victor awoke in his penthouse to sirens and scandal. Feds swarmed him by dawn. Harlan's question echoing in the headlines. Who pulled the trigger? Nexus crumbled. Stocks to zero. DARPA ties exposed in congressional hearings that dragged for months.
Elena walked.
Richer in settlement than sympathy.
Me?
Cleared. Sort of. The logs proved Victor's hand. But the gray areas lingered. My code. My overrides. Probation lifted. But the felony stuck like tar. I ghosted back to Mom's. Coding open-source empathy tools from a laptop in the kitchen, far from the valley's glare. Was it justice? Harlan asked that over beers one night. The bay glittering like fool's gold. You avenged a ghost. Peyton. But the man in the mirror? He's still paying. Controversial end, hero or villain. I torched an empire. Saved lives in the ashes. But the swap scarred me. Nightmares of Victor's eyes in my reflection. The itch of stolen power. Harlan calls it growth. I call it survival. Either way, the credit's mine now. Earned in blood and bites.
No refunds.
Epilogue?
Nah.
Life's no tidy bow. 6 months post-swap. And the fallout's still settling like ash after a wildfire. Nexus is a carcass picked clean. Assets auctioned to ethical AI startups. The lab gutted for scrap. Victor? He's rotting in a supermax upstate. Federal time for manslaughter and fraud. His TED Talk scrubbed from the net like bad tattoos. Last I heard, he's writing a memoir, from visionary to villain, ghostwritten by a disgraced journalist hungry for clicks. Elena? She pivoted to activism. Podcasting about corporate gaslighting, her episodes topping charts among the coastal elite. Good for her.
Me?
Peyton's piecing together a new normal. One line of code at a time. The morning after the reversal, I woke in my old bed, springs poking ribs that felt too narrow. Too familiar, like slipping into jeans shrunk in the wash. Mom found me there. Curled fetal. The echo mind chip scar itching under my collarbone like a fresh tattoo. Baby, she whispered. Hand on my fevered brow. I spilled it all. The swap. The leaks. Harlan's raid. Her face crumpled, not shock, but recognition. The weight of secrets she'd carried solo. Torres, she breathed, confirming the download's bomb. Your brother. I thought burying it would protect you both. Victor found out, blackmailed me into silence. We cried then, ugly sobs that shook the duplex walls, mending fractures I'd coded over without knowing. Harlan showed up at noon, bearing takeout from the Greek spot on Telegraph, gyros greasy as forgiveness. No lecture, just quiet chewing and the hum of the old box fan. Feds wrapped the Reno case, he said finally, wiping tzatziki from his beard. Victor's pleading out, 30 years. No parole. Your logs cleared the manslaughter, his override sealed it. DARPA's in the hot seat too, hearings next month. You did good, son.
Good.
The word hung. Tainted. I'd exposed horrors. Yeah, migrants repatriated with settlements. Trials shuttered, but the cost? Sleepless nights replaying the boardroom question. That brutal hook that snagged Victor's empire and nearly drowned me in the undertow. The controversy? It fermented online like bad moonshine. Reddit threads dissected the intern's revenge. Was Peyton a whistleblower saint or a vengeful hack? TikToks recreated the swap in cringy filters. Body swap justice trending with equal parts memes and manifestos. Pundits on Fox called it tech vigilantism run amok, while CNN hailed me as the everyman's equalizer. A podcast to even dox my mom's address, had to move her to a subsidized spot in Berkeley, courtesy of a GoFundMe Harlan crowdsourced from old PD buddies. The gray? It gnaws. Those woke memos I leaked as Victor? They tanked retirements for mid-level coders. Folks like me who'd bet on the Valley Dream. Elena's tears? Real pain. Even if Victor earned it. And Torres, God. The ghost of a brother I'd never met. His death a stain no amount of open-source penance erases. I landed on my feet.
Sorta.
A nonprofit in the mission scooped me up, Ethos Code. Building AI for community watchdogs. No black budgets attached. Pays modest. Office, a converted warehouse with exposed brick and free kombucha.
But the work? Clean.
EchoMind's bones repurposed. Sims for trauma therapy. Letting cops walk victims' paths without the badge blinding them. Harlan consults part-time. His cop wisdom tempering my code kid fire. Decisions ain't black and white. Peyton, he says over chess at the kitchen table. Knights sacrificing for queen. You chose the hard path, traded easy credit for messy truth. That's the American way. Warts and all. But the tension lingers.
Uamos Novemberfog.
Dreams hit hard. Victor's penthouse. The mirror's smirk. Hands signing my ruin. Woke sweating. I'd pace the fire escape. City lights mocking from afar. Once, scrolling X at 3 a.m., I saw Victor's appeal filing, claiming neural tampering by an imposter intern. Laughable. But it stirred the pot. Conspiracy nuts claiming I was a deepfake plant. Government psyop to kneecap big tech. Replies flooded. Peyton Ellis is a fraud. Versus nah. Hails the deep state puppet. Tran Kai fodder. Endless. The real twist, the one that keeps me up. Debating my own reflection? That final download revealed Victor wasn't pure evil. Buried in his neural echo, a voice note. Time-stamped pre-frame. Peyton. Kid. Your code's genius. But it's dangerous. DARPA's twisting it. I'm taking heat to shield you, rebrand. Sideline you till it's safe. Lies? Maybe. Or maybe he played hero in his head, sacrificing the intern to save the visionary. The reversal? It humanized the monster, made the revenge taste like ash. Did I overstep? Wearing his skin to wield the blade? Would Torres approve? Or haunt me for building the trap? Hell if I know. Last week. Over beers at a dive in the Tenderloin, neon buzzing. Jukebox crooning Springsteen, Harlan raised his pint. To brutal questions he toasted, eyes twinkling. The ones that expose us all. I clinked, throat tight. Credit's a thief. Yeah, but truth? It's the bigger con. Slipping away just when you think you've caught it. I'm Peyton Ellis, ex-intern, body swap survivor, architect of Empire's fall. Hero to some, cautionary tale to others. The debate rages online. In bars. In my skull. And me? I'm just trying to code a better tomorrow. One empathetic line at a time. But if Victor ever walks free, well, I've still got the override code memorized. Just in case. Fade to black on that. Or don't, life's no script. But damn if it ain't one hell of a story.